exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos.
Daily Dose is clipping this, so
This is our historic moment
he knows.
of crisis and challenge. And unity is the path forward. And we must meet this moment as the United States of America.
He's like, I'm posting this as soon as it's over.
I guarentee you we will not fail. We have never, ever failed in America. When we've acted together. And so today, at this time, in this place, let's start afresh. All of us. Let's begin to listen to one another again. Hear one another. See one another. Show respect to one another. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured. My fellow Americans, we have to be different than this. America has to be better than this. And I believe America is so much better than this. Just look around. Here we stand in the shadow of the Capitol Dome, as was mentioned earlier, completed amid the Civil War, when the Union itself was literally hanging in the balance. Yet we endured. We prevailed. Here we stand, looking out on the Great Mall, where Dr. King spoke of his dream.
I'm not going to run an ad right now, Chad.
108 years ago,
in the middle of the fucking speech,
thousands of protesters tried to block brave women marching for the right to vote. And today, we mark the swearing in of the first woman in American history elected to national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change. Here we stand, across the Potomac from Arlington Cemetery, where heroes who gave the last full measure of devotion rest in eternal peace. And here we stand, just days after a riotous mob thought they could use violence to silence the will of the people, to stop the work of our democracy, to drive us from this sacred ground. It did not happen. It will never happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not ever.
Like, is Mitch McConnell clapping right now? I want to know. Is Mitch McConnell clapping? George W. Bush is there. Fuck it.
I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let
I
me
need
say
a Mitch
this.
cam, dude.
Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did. Many centuries ago, St. Augustine, a saint of my church, wrote that a people was a multitude defined by the common objects of their love. Defined by the common objects of their love. What are the common objects we as Americans love that define us as Americans? I think we know. Opportunity.
Look at it.
Security.
Look at how he's clapping.
Liberty.
Look at this.
Dignity, respect, honor, and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies. Look, I understand that many of my fellow Americans view the future with fear and trepidation. I understand they worry about their jobs. I understand, like my dad, they lay in bed wondering, can I keep my health care?
Q!
Can I pay my mortgage?
Q not!
Thinking about their families.
It's over!
About what
It
comes
happened!
next.
It's now Donald Trump!
I promise you, I get it.
They swapped him with Donald
But
Trump!
the answer is not to turn inward, to retreat into competing factions, distrusting those who don't look like you, or worship the way you do, or don't get their news from the same sources you do. We must end this uncivil war.
It's happening,
That
brother!
pits red against blue,
It's happening, brother!
rural versus urban.
Trust the plan!
Rural versus urban.
The switcheroo is
versus
here!
liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility, and if we're willing to stand in the other person's shoes, as my mom would say, just for a moment, stand in their shoes.
Yeah, hoggers.
Because here's the thing about life. There's no accounting for what fate will deal you. Some days, when you need a hand. There are other days when we're called to lend a hand. That's how it has to be. This is what we do for one another. And if we are this way, our country will be stronger, more prosperous, more ready for the future. And we can still disagree. My fellow Americans, in the work ahead of us, we're going to need each other. We need all our strength to persevere through this dark winter. We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. And I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. Together. Look, folks, all my colleagues I serve with in the House and the Senate up here, we all understand the world is watching all of us today. So here's my message to those beyond our borders. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again. Not to meet yesterday's challenges, but today's and tomorrow's challenges. And we'll lead not merely by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. We'll be a strong and trusted partner for peace, progress, and security. Look, you all know we've been through so much in this nation. And my first act as president, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent prayer. Remember all those who we lost in this past year to the pandemic. Those 400,000 fellow Americans, moms, dads, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. We'll honor them by becoming the people and the nation we know we can and should be. So I ask you, let's say a silent prayer for those who've lost their lives and those left behind, and for our country. Amen. Folks,
Damn, that was a
this is a time
quick-ass
of
prayer,
testing.
bro.
We face an attack on our democracy and on truth, a raging virus, growing inequity, the sting of systemic
No a
racism,
woman.
a climate in crisis,
That's bullshit.
America's role in the world. Any one of these would be enough to challenge us in profound ways. But the fact is, we face them all at once, presenting this nation with one of the gravest responsibilities we've had. Now we're going to be tested. Are we going to step up, all of us? It's time for boldness, for there's so much to do. And this is certain. I promise you, we will be judged.
New Gamba, will Joe Biden predict the...
by how we resolve these
New
cascading
Gamba, will
crises
Joe
of
Biden
our
mention the
era.
Irish poet near the end?
We will rise to the occasion is the question. Will we master this rare and difficult hour? Will we meet our obligations and pass along a new and better world to our children? I believe we must. I'm sure you do as well. I believe we will. And when we do, we'll write the next great chapter in the history of the United States of America, the American story. A story that might sound something like a song that means a lot to me. It's called American Anthem. There's one verse that stands out, at least for me, and it goes like this. The work and prayers of century have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Let's us add our own work and prayers to the unfolding story of our great nation.
That bars, dude?
If we do this, then when our days are through, our children and our children's children will say of us, they gave their best, they did their duty, they healed a broken land. My fellow Americans, I close the day where I began, with the sacred oath. Before God and all of you, I give you my word. I will always level with you. I will defend the Constitution. I'll defend our democracy. I'll defend America. And I'll give all of you, keep everything I do in your service, thinking not of power, but of possibilities, not of personal interest, but the public good. And together, we shall write an American story of hope, not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness, a story of decency and dignity, love and healing, greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us, the story that inspires us, and the story that tells ages yet to come that we answered the call of history. We met the moment. Democracy and hope, truth and justice did not die on our watch but thrived. That America secured liberty at home and stood once again as a beacon to the world.
Bro.
That is what we owe our forebears.
Someone Googled if
One
Norah
another
Jones
and
was half
generations to
Irish.
follow.
That doesn't
So,
count. They're talking about the famous one that he
purpose and
uses all the
resolve,
time.
We turn to those tasks of our time, sustained by faith, driven by conviction, and devoted to one another and the country we love with all our hearts. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
The inaugural address of Joseph Robinette Biden, now 46th
Look at him.
president
He's
of the
clapping.
United States. Powerful, personal, emotional at times, delivered with command. The new president called Americans to empathy and action.
I don't know, man. Look, I try to live it up a little bit, especially on occasions like this. You know what I mean? But like, is that actually emotional? Like, I don't feel it.
We can't harden our hearts. We must open our souls. Put
I just want like
shoes, as his mother taught him.
healthcare, better wages, social safety nets that the government provides to all Americans, regardless of race, color, creed, background. You know what I mean? What the fuck? God damn! My man's got a big ass belt buckle. Sing it for us, Garth. Praise hell, praise Dale. Woo!
Amazing grace.
Goddamn!
How sweet the
Miracle, baby!
then saved
My uncle, who I was named after, was shot last night.
Garth Brooks, more like Girth Brooks, brother.
Today is a great day for me and my family, who I wanted to share it with my favorite stringer. I love you, Aja, and what an amazing day.
but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
Resident sleeper, Asan, resident sleeper, Asan, resident sleeper, Asan.
Been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first began.
My 3 months today.
If I can ask you to sing this last verse with me, not just the people here, but the people at home, at work, as one, united.
Really shows how political figures don't give a shit about normal citizens.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Remember when he wore a Barry Sanders? Remember when he wore a Barry Sanders 20 jersey? And everybody thought he meant Bernie Sanders 2020 and everyone was mad at him? Apparently a bunch of fucking Republicans are so upset that he attended and he sang at the inauguration that they were like, we need to boycott him. He ain't a real one, brother. Look at him. He's hugging black folk over there like, oh, Bobby! And Bill Clinton. God damn it.
Not quite social distance there for Garth Brooks. Hugs there. Former President Bill Clinton, former First Lady.
Oh my God, he's
Guess he
kissing
can't help
people.
himself.
He's kissing people. He's not socially distancing.
Blunt.
Wait a minute. Is this the plan? Trust the plan, boys. Garth is with us. He's giving them that Chinese virus.
A song that in our culture is as close to
What the
both
fuck?
poetry and prayer as you could possibly
Resident
come.
sleeper.
And we're going to finish with those two things. Let me introduce Amanda Gorman, our nation's first ever National Poet Laureate.
Our advocate for President. We love you, Aja.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is.
Radical liberty.
And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true.
Oh, no.
That even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it in its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain.
Oh, damn, this is a long poetry
if we
session,
merge
dude.
mercy with might and might
Holy
with
shit.
right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with.
friggin'
Every
Iliad.
breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Wow. How's that for a national debut? Most of us will remember where we were when we heard Joe Biden take the oath of office, give his inaugural address. We will all remember when we heard Amanda Gorman speak to the world as America's first National Youth Poet
Amanda
Laureate.
Gorman. Now for our benediction, I'm pleased to introduce Reverend Dr. Sylvester Beeman, the pastor of the Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Wilmington, Delaware, a friend of President Biden for 30 years.
I might actually hit an ad break here in between some speeches, you know? I should have probably done it before. Top of the hour, every hour, 6-second ad break, folks. If you no longer want to see the ads, or you might want to, you can subscribe. You can do it for free with your Twitch Prime. The contractual obligation is upon us. Here's the ad.
As a nation and people of faith gathered in this historical moment, let us unite in prayer. God,
going up.
We gather under the beauty of your holiness and the holiness of your beauty. We seek your face, your smile, your warm embrace. We petition you once more in this celebration. We pray for divine favor upon our President, Joseph R. Biden, and our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, and their family. We further ask that you would extend the same favor upon our Vice President, Kamala D. Harris, and our second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, and their family. More than ever, they and our nation need you. We need you, for in you we discover our common humanity. And our common humanity.
God damn, this is so sleeper, dude. Oh my God.
And bind their wounds.
I did press the button.
For those who are sick and diseased. We will mourn our dead. We will befriend the lonely, the least, and the left out. We will share our abundance with those who are hungry. We will do justly to the oppressed, acknowledge sin, and seek forgiveness, thus grasping reconciliation. In discovering our humanity, we will seek the good in and for all our neighbors. We will love the unlovable, remove the stigma of the so-called untouchables. We will care for our most vulnerable, our children, the elderly, emotionally challenged.
You want flamethrowers or holograms or something?
We will seek rehabilitation beyond correction.
Yes.
We'll extend opportunity to those
that'd be
locked
fucking
out
cool.
of opportunity. We will make friends of our enemies. We will make friends of our enemies. People, your people, shall no longer raise up weapons against one another. We will rather use our resources.
I mean, don't lie to me. You don't find this to be entertaining.
Become a beacon of life and goodwill to the world. And neither shall we learn hatred anymore. We will lie down in peace and not make our neighbors afraid. In you, O God, we discover our humanity. In our humanity, we discover our commonness. Beyond the difference of color, creed, origin, political party,
we want a VTuber president, baby.
And personal preferences.
That's what I want.
We'll become greater stewards of your environment, preserving the land, reaping from it a sustainable harvest, and securing its wonder and miracle-giving power for generations to come. This is our benediction, that from these hallowed grounds, where slaves labored to build this shrine and citadel to liberty and democracy, let us all acknowledge, from the indigenous Native American to those who recently received their citizenship, from the African American to those whose foreparents came from Europe and every corner of the globe.
I wish it was Reverend Wright delivering
to those
this.
struggling to make it, from every human being, regardless of their choices, that this is our country. As such, teach us, O God. As such, teach us, O God, to live in it love in it, be healed in it, and reconcile to one another in it, lest we miss kingdom's goal. To your glory, majesty, dominion, and power forever. Hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. In the strong name of our collective faith. Amen.
Please remain standing as the Armed Forces Color Guard retires our national colors.
Echoes of Martin Luther King Jr. there in the benediction of Reverend Dr. Sylvester Beeman with a prayer and a plea for unity in this country so deeply divided right now.
We've been spoiled.
Cecilia Vega, unity, the theme of the day, the theme of this inaugural ceremony, the theme of Joe Biden's presidential campaign, clearly going to be the early theme of his presidency. He said,
unity, boys.
In this, bringing America together.
George, this was an inaugural speech aimed at uniting the country, but so much of this was speaking directly to Donald Trump supporters or those who may be doubting Joe Biden's legitimacy. He said, we won this. This is democracy. You are.
It's so weird that this is like, I'm sorry, but it's so weird to like center your entire fucking speech and what like your announcement is going to be as president, what you're going to do as president, around people who think you're a blood-sucking pedophile vampire. Okay? It's weird. Like, obviously he's going to say, you know, I'm your president too. But like, that's the most that should be. Like, where is the unity? Like, how are we going to have unity when like on my other monitor, I'm literally looking at QAnon theories. I'm trying to figure out what they're fucking, what they're doing right now. Like, how are they coping with the reality that Donald Trump is no longer president and like everything that the Q had promised them is a lie. Either way, it's happening. I'm happy to be wrong the more I think about it, but I do think it's possible that Biden will be the one who pulls the trigger. Hunter intentionally left the laptop. Why? So stupid? Or was it? Sleepy Joe, we didn't arrest either of them despite the evidence. Even Biden election officials were arrested and charged with fraud, but Biden wasn't. Like these guys are so fucking off base that they're just...
For President Trump was quite simple and very classic Joe Biden. Him essentially saying, just give me a chance.
Give him a chance. He used that folks a few times. Rachel Scott up there on Capitol Hill, part of that message.
They don't hear you.
For all Americans.
They don't hear you. They only hear Donald Trump, okay? They don't hear you. I don't know why you speak to them. Speak to those who got you there, brother.
The Capitol. Joe Biden.
And speaking to those who got you there is not just about like, here's the first black Capitol Hill Police Department chief or something. Like, speak to those who got you there by addressing their needs. And he kind of did that a little bit. He talked about how this is a nation that is, you know, suffering currently, and that's good. That's understandable. Okay? But it is an inauguration. It is a largely symbolic bullshit event, so it's not supposed to be. QAnon supporters thought Trump was going to send out an emergency alert to declare martial law, but Apple updated everyone's phones to remove emergency alerts. No, they still have emergency alerts on the phones, I'm pretty sure. You can't tell 40% of the country to go fuck themselves. First of all, you can avoid them. You can stop acting like they're fucking serious. You can start acting like you can stop acting like they're legitimate. Motherfucker, people avoid the left all the goddamn time. Stop treating Republicans the same way. Stop normalizing Republicans. Okay? Just stop it. Also, they're not 40% of the country. They're like around 50% of Trump supporters who think the actions that Donald Trump took and like the storming of the Capitol and shit were justifiable acts. So those guys are gone. That's a GG. You know, just move on and they will forget. Okay? That's all you can expect. Also, did I just get raided? Shouts out to, hey, NMP Lol. Thank you, Nick and Melina, for the raid. Pago Palom. Pago raid. Like, people always say, like, you cannot avoid, you know, Republicans, or you just can't act like they don't exist. Meanwhile, 75% of the country believes Roe v. Wade should be the law of the land. And yet, if you ask the Republican Party, they make it seem like 90% of the country is literally on board with abolishing people's civil liberties and access to get abortions. Okay? Destroying the bodily autonomy of women. So they do that shit all the time for their own fucking specific policy goals and their own agendas. They act like the entire country's on board. And they do everything they can to fight for those goals, especially ones that are aligned with their long-standing ideological agenda for their party, for the future of capital owners and conservatism in general.
Amanda Gorman, just for a moment, because that was more than a poem, that was preaching. And it was preaching born out of wisdom, passion, and dare I say pain. You know, her poem was entitled The Hill We Climb. And of course, this was not so much about Capitol Hill as much as it was the uphill battle that's been faced.
You can't say fuck you towards 40% of the country. You can't say fuck you towards 40% of the country just as minorities who are being ignored and being screwed. Yeah. And by the way, this isn't to say like it's the same. Ignoring like racist Andes and moving along and clearly defining what your goals are that will be helpful to those racists anyway is not the same as ignoring the existence of marginalized people and, like, you know, legislating against their better interests. It's just not the same. So yes, I do think that you should just say, look, I'm going to be your president whether you like it or not. Okay? That's what I always say. I'm going to tell you right now, folks, all the racists in the audience, if you're in here watching, if you're in here hate watching, I am going to be such a fucking tyrant. If I ever had power, I'd be so tyrannical towards you. I would give you that government health care, baby. I would give you that fucking government health care, whether you like it or not. I'd give you that $15 minimum wage. Oh my God, I'd be so tyrannical to you, dude. You'd be able to not die because you can't fucking afford insulin, dude. That kind of tyranny, baby. You'd get dental care. Ooh, I'd be so tyrannical with that, dude. I'd be so tyrannical by allowing unionization to happen in this country. You know what I mean? So you could have collective bargaining agreements and get better benefits, more power over your workplace. That type of fucking real tyrannical nonsense, you know. I'm a monster like that. So yeah, that's my fucking tyranny.
Of Biden's speech, his Reverend Beeman saying we must make friends of our enemies. We must make friends of our enemies, which defined the challenge that Biden takes on right now. And the line in Biden's speech that stood out to me was when he said there is truth and there are lies. It's such a simple line, George. It is a platitude in any other context. But where we are now, the divisions that we face, we must make friends of our enemies. The challenge in doing that is that we have not simply enemies in a political context, but we have divided camps that do not accept the same definition of what is true and what is a lie. The people that stormed that Capitol in the name of a lie that was perpetrated and expanded on and pushed at every point by Biden's predecessor. So when he came out and said that line, again, that simple line, there is truth and there are lies, if he can convince us, if he can convince Americans of that once again, he'll go a long way to accomplishing what he needs to accomplish.
That would be a monumental victory for Joe Biden as 46th president of the United States. Mark Updegrove, presidential historian. We must not be enemies. We must not make friends of our enemies, as John Carl was just talking about. Echoes of...
I hate to be that guy, but I feel like if you're literally speaking, like if you're up close and not inside of your own bubble, if you're up close, like if J-Lo and Obama didn't come there together, that means that they're not in the same bubble. Which means that, like, you shouldn't be rolling up to them and talking in their ear, even if you have a mask, even if you're outside. It's still not best practices. Like, not to be that annoying, like, these are not the rules, Andy, but like kind of
trying to sabotage
not good
this election, calling on insurrectionists to seize the Capitol, to try to overturn the result, to try to overthrow our country. Democracy triumph.
I cannot wait to hear from Trump supporters, man. That's the real content, okay? Let's be fucking real. None of this shit is content. But the real content is hearing from the QAnon supporters, the Trump supporters. Let's be real. This is why you're here, okay? You want to know how they're fucking coping with this. You want to know, because this is like, this is the end of the days cult, and it's after Y2K. It's you know, January 1st, 2001. This is what was that Mayan calendar date that that the other cult said the world was going to end on? 2012. Yeah, like this is that date. Yeah, December 10th, 2012.
He will remain chairman of the Joint Chiefs, but he had a very tough balancing act during this period. I know there's probably a sigh of relief.
You now know, like, this is
didn't act up in the last couple of weeks because there were certainly plans to respond to any attack from
that was just the Aztecs. Whatever. December 21st. The world has not ended. We are back. We are alive. And Joe Biden is now officially the president.
Protesters, I know Milley peeled away from the crowd there, but apologized for that, knew that was wrong, and then carried on and with his advice to the president. Also, all the military up there, George. I was looking at the Marine when he
I'm shaking right now. My 2-year-old son just said his first words. He said, "Is it true that Trump lost the election by the biggest landslide in presidential history?" I said, "Yes, son." I couldn't lie to him. It was one of the realest moments of my life.
Your descriptions of the outfits, George. We like that.
And right on time, boys.
I have to say, just watching those last few moments as Martha was talking, how refreshing.
Right on time. Hashtag impeach Biden by Marjorie Taylor Greene, our very own QAnon congressman.
Look, those presidents did not agree with each other. They had their disagreements. In some ways, George Bush was elected to refute the presidency of Bill Clinton, and certainly Barack Obama to refute the presidency of George W. Bush. But in keeping with our tradition, there they are, and that's really what.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so wonderful. Anyway, again, these guys are all crooks. They're liars. They're phonies. They're evil. But also, you know, look at us coming together. George W. Bush is a war criminal. His administration was perhaps the worst American administration, okay? The most violence pound per pound, the most violence per capita out of any fucking contemporary administration. And I'm serious. You cannot come near the amount of bloodshed that Dick Cheney and George W. Bush caused. And I say Dick Cheney first, okay? Sorry, still the truth. 4 years after Donald Trump is done, I can finally say it without a shred of doubt. Do you hear my voice trembling when I say this? No. George W. Bush's administration was way worse than the Trump administration. We are still engaging in the wars that the Bush administration started. That's undeniable. Trillions of dollars, millions of lives lost, even more millions of lives that have been displaced as a consequence of that. Donald Trump was terrible domestically, okay? He was terrible domestically. He galvanized, he emboldened, he agitated some of the worst elements in American society. He took some of the values that the Republicans have been using to to win elections, and he cranked it up. He just looked at the racism dial and was like, oh, let's just click, 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 crank it up a couple notches. And an immediate consequence of that, of course, was white supremacist terror, domestic terror increasing in this country. White supremacists and white nativists feeling bold, feeling proud of their point of view. And that was truly devastating. Make no mistake. Don't forget that this didn't happen in a vacuum. Okay? Do not forget that this did not happen in a vacuum. That the Republican Party has played a significant role in this. Because Donald Trump is the Republican Party. He always was, and he always will be. He is, despite the fact that he is a billionaire, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, spoiled, sassy bitch who loves drama, he is very much a better representative of those voters on the ground that vote for him. The small business, from the small business tyrants to the union electricians. Donald Trump was a great demagogue, and he was a very successful Republican president. And that's why we saw so much death and devastation, because he operated like a good Republican president would do. And that's precisely why he will be remembered like Ronald Reagan by the Republicans. Ronald Reagan was also a fucking horrific monster whose actions still harm this country. His deregulation, his tax cuts.
The new Vice President of the United States saying farewell.
And so will Donald Trump's.
Who was Vice President of the United States for the last 4 years? Mike Pence.
Okay?
And Karen Pence.
That's the truth. Celebrating those who brought him there to the dance. From Mike Pence to Mitch McConnell to even fucking Ted Cruz, who literally until the last moment was acting as though this election was stolen. Emboldening those who wanted to siege the Capitol. Bringing them along for the ride. And shaking hands and hugging and kissing one another. I mean, that's bullshit. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that these guys are purely evil, which they are, and then also sit there and be like, we got to unite with these pure evil pieces of shit. It doesn't make sense. Rahm Emanuel's another evil piece of shit too.
And underneath
anyway.
all of this is a basic point that after the last 4 years, we deviated from that motto. And I think when you really strip back, what Joe Biden was talking about was reasserting that motto as our North Star. The poem, which we all said, I mean, I think she stole the day, and I think we're going to hear a lot. That's the first we've heard it, not the last we've heard of Ms. Gorman. But that motto is our North Star. And I think Joe Biden, in his own biography, but also his words, was reminding all of us that out of many is one.
There is no peace. That's, you know, again, basically...
What?
Unity, there is no peace. That's, you know, again, basically, Tom, it sounds like Joe Biden saying to all of President Trump's voters out there, you know, I will lead all of America as long as you guys fall in line.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing that he's got to deal with, is the fact that unity at the expense of freedom and principles is not what a lot of Americans are interested in. He mentioned political extremism twice. He mentioned white supremacy on more than one occasion. And he talked about threats to democracy and truth. And that was also a veiled reference to people who over the last couple of months have questioned the legitimacy of his presidency. And there were a couple of references to that. That was also a reference to President Trump. So I thought this speech, as Mark said, it was full of cliches, but it was very dark. It was actually, you know, not unifying. It was actually quite divisive. It's very difficult.
Yeah, unify with these freaks. Come on. Go ahead. Unify with these freaks. They will tell you that you are evil. Okay? They'll tell you that BLM is evil and violent while storming the fucking Capitol where 5 people die. Okay? They will tell you that Antifa is the violent ones while white supremacists go out and literally fucking engage in hate crimes that end up killing 5 to 20 people. Okay? There is no unifying with these people. They don't want unity. Republicans benefit from the polarization. That way they can make it seem as though they're different than the Democrats. The more you try to hug and kiss them, the more they're going to say, look, this hug and kiss is bullshit. They said white supremacy. They're saying we're white supremacists. Don't hug and kiss them. Hassan, you are such a pepega, says anti-censor. Really? I mean, we're watching them reject that message loud and clear, as though I have already said it.
Drive a unifying message when you are going to simultaneously talk about an overblown sense of white supremacy and systemic racism, and you lead a party that,
like, you need to recognize that for conservatives, someone mentioning racism is significantly worse than an actual act of racism. Okay? Like, he's basically saying it. He's literally saying, like, well, the real divisive thing is not the racism itself. It's the mentioning of that racism. You might not even want to do anything about it, but the fact that you're even uttering those words, the fact that you're even mentioning that it exists, is in and of itself incredibly divisive. It's dark. An overblown sense of white supremacy, he says. Strawman Andy? Yes. Except the strawman is the literal fucking Republican commentator on Newsmax that we are watching. You can't say something is a strawman if I'm directly replying to the words of a fucking person. That comes along with the tacit admission that you understand that your side is so fucking dumb that what this person is saying currently is literally so idiotic that it must be something he didn't say. So you already recognize that what he's saying is fucking insane and stupid. Thank you.
that is driving cancel culture in America. Oftentimes when he was talking about unity, I kept on thinking to myself, so does this apply to conservatives as well?
Why are you generalizing Republicans? Are you all about unity yet you demonize the mass on the right? Because I'm not a fucking idiot, dude, okay? I don't care. Listen to me. Listen, if you're a Republican, you can switch, okay? You can change that. And you should. Because if you are conservative, you're fucking brain dead, okay? I am not a regressive person. I'm a progressive person. I don't want to look backwards. I want to look forward. I want to move on. I want to make things better for people, okay? So I'm not going to sit here, and here is a conservative value that you will understand. I'm not going to sit here and fucking spare your feelings, you delusional dumb fuck. If you are a conservative who voted for Donald fucking Trump, you have to at some point in the past 4 years recognize, like, okay, well, Donald Trump is kind of fucked up. Like, some of the things he did was kind of fucked up. Maybe we should change it. Maybe I should no longer believe these things. So after 4 fucking years, when you see so many hogs on your side still refuse to recognize the fact that Donald Trump literally lost by millions, like a historic number of fucking votes, and that entitlement manifesting and creating this like insurrectionist hog rebellion, and you're still over here like, well, be nice to the conservatives. Well, you're a fucking idiot. You should be ashamed to be a conservative right now. This should be a moment of sadness where you sit there and revel in your delusion of your fellow conservatives, and yet you still have the audacity to come into my fucking chat and be like, why aren't you being nice to me? Suck my dick. You're a fucking playground bully. Why the fuck would I be nice to you? You stupid motherfucker. I'm sick and tired of this fucking bullshit where the media has to act like we have to be nice to conservatives no matter how fucking delusional they are. No. Fuck off. You can go get that at CNN. You can go get that at fucking Fox News. You can go get that at every other outlet. You don't have to get that here too, because I'm not going to give it to you. Use this as a moment to fucking reflect on your brain dead, delusional fucking worldview and escape the fucking grip of conservatism that has ruined your fucking life. God damn. When I think of conservatism, and many people as well, I think, also see this. When we think of conservatism, we see the guy, the hog, the small business tyrant walking into a fucking grocery store without a mask, screaming at some fucking, 20-year-old cashier who lives with their grandparents. We see super spreaders. We see denial of COVID. We see denial of climate change that threatens every single person's lives. We see worker protections being unrolled at the behest of capital owners. We see opposition to offering everyone health care. Why in the ever-loving fuck would I ever act like this kind of murderous, delusional ideology would deserve a shred, an ounce of fucking respect? Get the fuck out of here. I didn't even get off on the Q stuff because that's like the edge case, that is a little bit more aggressive than that's a little bit more in the margins. But the average conservative maintains a lot of fucking insane beliefs that I don't think we should, in the most snowflake mentality way, harbor, allow to fester. Why are we treating the conservative snowflakes like they have unique and brilliant ideas simply by the virtue of them having thought those ideas? Like, no. I'm here to tell you, you're stupid, okay? But here's the beauty of it. You can become more intelligent, okay? You can stop being stupid. I promise you. It's not that hard. There are plenty of people here who had really fucking dumb ideas, who had really dumb opinions, and they've changed their goddamn minds. But I think that first step that you need to take, doesn't come with me saying, oh yeah, come on, let me hug and kiss you. No, you're right. Your worldview isn't delusional and fundamentally broken and violent, okay? It doesn't start there. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you some fucking hard pills to swallow, I guess.
Does this apply to pro-life people? Does this apply to people canceled at their jobs, at their universities, in the media, in their own lives? Because,
like, what does that take? What do you want, Joe Biden to be like? Listen up, Jack. If you were a college professor and you got canceled on Twitter, we will say no more cancellations on Twitter. Like, what? Like, he's talking about genuine material harm to people's lives. Like, he's not fucking Donald Trump. He's not going to talk about that dumb shit. I mean, his stuff is also boring, vague, non-policy oriented. And it's the other side of the equation, the liberal side, the civility side of the equation. Both are inconsequential, though. Like, what Donald Trump talks about is completely inconsequential. Doesn't matter. Oh, cancel culture, cancel culture. Like, shut the fuck up. Nobody likes cancel culture, bitch. Joe Biden doesn't need to fucking say it.
they believe in traditional American values and more conservative values.
Yeah, traditional American. Yeah. I think more people need to start saying it with their chest. When they say like traditional American values, he must mean like racism, right? Because like, what else? What Joe Biden is trying to appeal to the traditional American values. The fuck do you mean then? Like, what are traditional American values, brother? Brand risk Andy not liking cancel culture either. Cancel culture is not specifically or exclusively a tool of the left. It has been portrayed as such, but that's not the case. as evidenced by the fact that I've been fucking canceled more times than most of your fucking favorite Republican commentators. Your Republican commentators get canceled, they go on Fox News, okay? They get a bigger platform. I get canceled, I have nothing. I'm not going on MSNBC. I'm not going on CNN. There's no battle lines there. Leftists don't have a safe harbor for once they get canceled. Shut the fuck up.